Hi, everybody. This is Holland Martin. Thanks for joining me today on the Never Die podcast, where legends never die. Today, I have 2002 Marion High School graduate Bobby Pittman. Bobby, thanks for joining me today.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. So, you played during the Most Medley era, which was right after the Randolph era and the Deuce Miller era on through. But you've always been, you've been a longtime athlete in Marion, and but I hear that you moved away and came back, became a football stud. So let's go to the beginning and kind of what your upbringing was, starting in Marion or and things like that. Where did you live at in Marion, and when did you start playing sports, and what elementary school and middle school did you go to?
Nice. Well, I wasn't born in Marion, but started. I was born in Virginia on a military base,
Okay.
but then my mom, being from Marion, we moved back here
Okay.
in the late '80s, and so we started elementary school at Allen Elementary over there off Bradford Street.
Yes, sir.
And I think during that time, clearly the elementaries, and it feels like a long time ago, and to some it is, over 20 years. But
Yes.
I mean, there was 6 or 7 elementaries from center, southeast. Marion was clearly bigger, but all the elementaries was open, middle schools was open. So, every area was just loaded with kids. And so over there at Allen, it was real cool though, because my mom, we were in the Livewire program.
Yes.
You remember Livewire?
Yes.
And so mom would have to be at work, I don't know, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. So she'd drop us off. And not only was my passion for just sports and messing around, running around already started at, I don't know, 6 or 7, but I got into the Big Brother program.
Yes.
And my big brother, he was a principal out at Southeast, and he wound up having season tickets at Marion High School.
Okay.
Right in back of one of the girls. His oh man, what was his name? I'll remember it coming up. But his daughter was a cheerleader nonetheless, and so he had season tickets like 8 rows up and back of one on the baseline. And man, I'm telling you what, and like you know this yourself, back in those days. So this was 90, 91.
Yes.
Brian Walker, Matt Ewer.
Yes.
Jody McCain was coming in. Hilton Tavares, Rankin. Matt Ewer.
That was probably the 93, 94 era right in there. Yep.
So and I mean it was just unbelievable. So I was 19 years old.
Yes.
And a spark was just lit. It was really remarkable, because not only would there be radio stations, the whole town would be there. This Bill Green Athletic Arena would be filled to the brim.
Yes.
Standing room only.
Baby.
That's right. And I mean, it was magical, the energy, being a grown man. My oldest son is 18, a senior in high school. When growing up, those were the role models. So right away, my role models became wanting to be a Marion Giant, and so over there at Allen, I started honing my craft, man. I would get there, all the other kids would go to the closet, lay down and sleep, and I grab a basketball and just started shooting.
Yes, sir.
And then one by one, when parents would come in, they'd be like, "Man, you're already shooting?" Like, "Yep." They're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, man, I want to be a Marion Giant. That was kind of like a pinnacle.
For all of us.
For sure. It like I said, it was electric. Everyone was there. We, even at that time, before you get into all the politics, basketball kind of, it was kind of king, and everybody was united too. You would see everyone at those games, other schools, other kids, other people, all the community. And so then that really got me going. So Started playing AAU basketball.
Hmm.
Obviously up there at the PAL Club, man, Bill Alter,
Yes.
and all of the family at the PAL Club, man.
Big time.
That was kind of like a second home.
Yes.
Uh,
That
and
baseball program was really good.
Yeah, same kind of the same thing as Bill Green Athletic. The whole community would be there.
Yes.
And I know that, I know a lot of, each generation you would say, okay, well, that it was like this in my day, well, the reality of how it used to be
Yes.
was far more beneficial with keeping a more community network and
Correct.
family,
Correct.
So not knocking. Go ahead.
I was going to say, because back in those days, Bobby, we still had a bunch of the factories. So there was money and there was support and sponsorship flowing through the town. And then we had baseball was really big as far as Lincoln, PAL Club, behind Matter Park, behind the VA. I mean, big time. And then as the years went by, the factories left. We don't produce anything anymore. We warehouse the things with distribution centers anymore. And the baseball's kind of left, Peyton Manning kind of brought football in, but the baseball kind of left. And I think there's a void still. There's still your diehards, Shannon Fowles, Tino Michener. They're still doing great things at the Lincoln, but there's that missing part of Marion, even with bowling. Like you said, sports is what brings all 5 county schools together, and I think that we're kind of easing away from that, and we need to bring that back.
For sure. And so that I'm a product of that, I tell my wife and, my mom and sisters and everybody, they were always there in the stands and they saw it too. Like I said, on the heels of Randolph, I would have been sophomore and I was down in Texas. And so, I was going to say, my sophomore year, I was in Texas, but we'll get back to that. But I did get to play. Was that my freshman year? Okay. And so we'll lead back up into it. But I was in that generation of where the community was brought together by all kinds of sports. And like you said, the whole county.
Everybody. I mean, because they would have their Grant 4. But we still play the Oak Hills. We still play at Madison Grant. We play at Miss Cinewall, in basketball. After you graduated, we played Madison Grant in football, and we played Miss Cinewall and Eastbrook in football as well. But, it was really, really, and back then you guys, some of the county guys, they had Braden Bushman at Miss Cinewall, and they had other guys at Oak Hill and some other guys that. And what the thing is, a lot of guys played in the Converse Summer League back then. I don't believe they have that anymore. They would play in basketball in a summer league, and then they would go to their schools and then maybe play against each other, in Grant 4.
Well, that was. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to hop Converse Summer League.
Yes.
That was like a rite of passage in this county. And you really, really got a good feel, not only for, competition, but you got a real temperature and was able to pull some of that swag, like you said, back to your own school. And guys knew that. Now, in all honesty, Marion, we it was just very different. There was no we went to, like I said, going back to how I was introduced to what a Marion Giant was, it was showtime. It was always showtime. Now you needed to win, and then of course towards the end of my days in high school there, winning was not, it was a little tough. It kind of tapered off, where I believe it was my junior year, was one of the last or first times in several years that Anderson beat us at home. I think that your 2002 year, that was Zach graduated. So your junior year, they went 11-11. I think it was Isaac McClung, Deuce Miller, those guys like that. Yep. And then that next year was your year.
But let's backtrack a little bit and go into, so after getting out of the middle school, you say you moved to Texas. When did you move down south?
Oh yeah. So my dad is he's still down in Dallas, and so when my parents separated and mom came up here, dad stayed down in Texas, and the Metroplex, DFW, and so after my freshman years, I played JV. Coach Blackman was the JV coach.
Yes.
And I really learned a lot playing from Coach Blackman. And also,
I
like
really
I said,
admire him. I hate to cut you off, but I really admire Coach Blackman from afar. I've never really had much conversation with him, just a couple conversations here or there. But I really admire him from afar. And he's legit Marion royalty. Kind of like you say, I actually transferred in as a sophomore. And that was right when it was 88. Miss Cinewall had beat Marion in the sectional, and then Miss Cinewall lost to Madison Grant that afternoon. So, like you said, man, I came here, it was like Marion was a college, bro. It was like,
oh yeah,
like the high school kids, Richie Thompson, Robert Carter, like these guys walked around like they owned the town, and they really did. Like they would give out Big Mac cards. You go to the Plymouth Club, you go to the man cafeteria down by the post office, and they would treat you like a king, you know. And so I had to have a part of it. I needed to be a part of it. And my first thing, I ran track for Coney and Hickland, and track wasn't my thing. But enough about me. So now let's go into football. Let's go into Marion football. Yeah. And we may backtrack a little bit.
So football, I wasn't even going to play football my freshman year. I was going to play soccer. And so I'm at home, and all the guys heard about it, and Big Will, Will Whitaker, and
good friend of
Brandon
mine.
Barrett.
Yeah,
absolutely, man. Love Big Will.
Yeah, rest in peace,
Brandon Barrett. And I believe Ryan Jackson was.
Hey, you know what? That dude was 5'11", boy, but he could put his freaking underarm on the rim, dog. That dude was like,
yes, he could.
Whoa! But so
he was one of the best athletes, and that's what I was going to say. My freshman year, man, I was submerged, even though I was a couple years, like one of the best athletes ever, Reggie Nevels.
Yes.
So I backed him up as a freshman quarterback. So I wasn't going to play, and then they was like, man, you better get your ass out here.
Yeah.
And so I had no beef because I loved all those guys. And so, but I didn't know what to expect because playing middle school football is way different.
Oh yeah.
And once again, you had Andrew Morrell, Yancey Donald, Matt Pettiford,
Anthony Monday, stars.
Anthony Monday. I mean, that was one of the most monstrous. And I went into college and played, and there were some formidable people that I played against. But when I was a freshman, that team was that was a real team.
Indoctrinated you.
Oh yeah.
To the real deal, you know. I tell the kids
because
I tell the kids, I coach at the high school. I'm a linebacker coach. And I tell the kids we have a young 2 out of the last 4 years we went to semi-state, 18 and 20. And now this last year was a rebuild year. We just had more freshmen. And a lot of them went from 8th grade ball at McCullough to big time college ball, because we teach college concepts with Coach Bell.
Nice.
And you could just see the gears working. But it's definitely an adjustment going from 8th grade middle school to high school, like you said. And like you said, you had some studs out there.
Absolutely. And so what it was for me, and so and then I played obviously basketball. We can get back to that, but I wound up, and we could even discuss, I cut my senior year, right? Yes. But what that did my freshman year, obviously it saved me so I can still go on and play football or college sports. That was my main passion.
Yes.
But it taught me a lot about fear. It taught me a lot about teamwork. It taught me a lot about myself. Like a lot of people, they're like, oh, you love basketball, and yada yada. Well, the reason why I really love football was because of the challenges that it presented. Of course, that it was just the game. You know, the game's fun. But man, when you go out there, you don't have the foot. You're not actually. What if you are not actually throwing the ball in the end zone at that moment? You still have a job to do.
Yes.
You know, there's still challenges other than when you're engaged in the actual, you know, play. And so I latched onto that right away. And one of the biggest ones was the physicality of it.
Yes.
Once you that first, like I said, when they moved me up the scout team, I remember running over from the baseball field over to the practice field, you know, really feeling myself because I always wanted to be on higher levels, you know.
Yes.
But I hadn't been out there with them big boys yet. And so I went up, it was the scout team and they were holding up the plays. I don't know, it could have been Muncie South or something like that. But there was a lot of passing plays, and I was like, you know, coming off of playing Madden, and I was like, shoot, I can do this. Yeah, man, they was coming right up the middle, and Coach Surface, he did this, and somebody on my son, you know, one of my boys, he plays football, and he hurt his back. He's a DB. That's part of the game. You know, I tell him he's okay now, but this is part of it. You play football, there is a, you know, that is a realness to it.
A lot of that pain doesn't go away, Bobby. Like ACLs, broken fingers, I've disc ruptured. You know, it's part of
concussions, and so I think also equipment has gotten better, but
much better. Air helmets and things of that nature.
And some of the rules, but you know, just the nature of it, it's an aggressive game, and so. But what that did to me when he threw me out there with the scout team, man, they busted me up. But once I got hit maybe 6 or 7 times and then completed a pass, that, you know, like you said, when the gears locked, and then things started slowing down, and then you started not worrying about the linebacker coming up. So now you can actually run the play. So I started understanding the mechanics. You got to take the fear out of it. You got to take when they say it, now that's when it becomes quote, quote, 90% mental, 10% physical.
Yes.
Once you get over the physical, you know, you have to be strong. You know, absolutely. Then now you can play. So I did. That was one thing I would say. Thankful. That's your passion there.
Football is, anybody that knows me, they know that I am a football guy, 100%. I love everything about it. It's almost like, to me, I tell people, it's like almost playing chess with people, because now I'm in the booth. So I got the headset on, I'm calling field and boundary. I'm calling the mic is hot. I'm calling 2 safeties. Like, it's big time. It's big time. That's awesome. I get to dictate. Like, the coaches call the plays off of what we see up top. So I really have, it's like not a power trip, but you dictate the game. And from a
very important.
Oh my goodness! And I have what I call one of the best coaches ever is Coach James Bell. Used to coach at Taylor, been all over IU, Wake Forest, and Louisville, things like that. And he brings a college level to even us coaches. We do everything in a college way, and it's going to make me better. So let's go into that sophomore year. And you guys, like I said, Reggie Neville. Did you ever get any varsity time? And what about some of those JV contests?
Yeah, so my freshman year when I was backing up, Reggie handled it very well, and he never got injured, and so I never. Well, when I say never, I would get in late in the game. So I actually did. I lettered as a freshman, and then. Tony Nukes, Coach Nukes was our DB coach, and so in sectionals, the play had ran out, so I couldn't even get in for the offense, but the defense was still on the field, and likewise, you know, he threw me out there on DBs to get me some time and allow me to, you know, get all my letter down. So I got to see a little bit of varsity experience, but what they would do is I would get to play 3 quarters, I believe it was, in JV. And it was very similar. My freshman year of JV basketball and football was very similar because, man, we'd go out there and just throw and run it on them. And so I really started to like football
Yes.
because like I said, once I got over that whole physical
Yeah.
thing, it
The
became I was
mental
playing, and
aspect.
yeah, absolutely. And so for me, that's where I love playing the game, is that it wasn't so much the just this diehard football, because me playing quarterback, you know,
Hmm.
my linemen, you know, Eddie Cruz,
Oh yeah.
um, you know, Jason Hodge, JD Ross,
Yeah.
Adam Bush, man,
Yes. Big
some
Adam.
amazing Tommy Arnold, JP Stanley. I had guys that legitimately like people would be coming to really harm me on some of the plays, and they would
Hmm.
pull them down. I mean, they really had, we were a real
Yes.
family. And so that sort of thing once I got playing. But so then my sophomore year though, so that was all great, you know,
Yes.
freshman year. And but then, man, you know, growing up, you know, my dad being away,
Uh-huh.
I didn't have any brothers. I just wanted to be with my dad, man. And
Yes.
you know, leaving my mom, my sisters, and Marion was real tough
Hmm.
because uh, you know, for all of my elementary, middle school it was all about being a Marion Giant. But
Yes.
I wanted to, you know, love my dad, and so I had the
Hmm.
opportunity to move down there my sophomore year.
Hmm.
And when I went down there, and this was part of also like growing up playing AAU ball in the Midwest,
Yes.
specifically Indiana, specifically Marion, is that we really, it was very tough to beat a team from Marion at one point in
Yes.
time. There was a point in time where you had to be one of the nation's best,
Yes.
or catch us on a bad day where we were
Yeah.
staying up in the hotel.
Hmm. And it really didn't happen
You
too
know,
much because Marion was
and it didn't happen.
locked in back
Yeah.
then.
And so we finished third in the state at times, and or runner up in the national competitions, and then get to
Hmm.
nationals, and you know, only finish 12th or 5th. But when you're talking about out of 1,000 teams, you know,
Yes.
that we carried that whole time. So when I went down to Texas, it had already kind of leaked that I was moving down there, and
Uh-huh.
Darren Schiermeyer was the coach. See, down there that it is, and up here it was that way too. But because it's a huge, you know, it's Dallas Fort Worth.
Football's
That,
king in Texas.
oh my God, man.
Yes.
You know, Bill Green, we still have one of the biggest gyms in the state. But
Yes.
down there, man, every quarter mile, every 2 miles,
Uh-huh.
there's a 10 to 15,000 stadium jumbotron, and this was back in the
Yes.
90s,
Hmm. It's
early
bigger
2000s.
now. I hear it's bigger now.
Absolutely. And so where you've probably heard of one of the most notable Texas teams, they're called South Lake Carroll.
Yes, South Lake Carolina. They play Permian, I believe.
Yeah. So I went to Grapevine High School, and
Hmm.
Grapevine and Colleyville, Heritage, Keller,
Hmm.
and then South Lake Carroll, where that was like the NCC is up here.
Uh-huh.
And so in
Super
basketball and
athletes.
football, yeah, I got to see, that was the conference that I was in, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
So it was, but basketball, and yes, it is a very competitive and awesome guy. There's a lot of recruiting. I was getting heavily recruited, but I went down there. I just wasn't, you know, I had a chip on my shoulder.
Hmm.
And then, you know, I'd walk in the gym and they're like, oh, that's the kid from Marion, you know,
Uh-huh.
yada. You know, I played against Deron Williams. You know, we faced off several times down there.
Okay. He
You know,
went to Utah Jazz and
oh yeah,
yeah.
Illinois University,
Yeah, Illinois.
the Colony. And summer ball was a little different down there too. You could play with your high school for like
Uh-huh.
a couple weeks, and so that's where I got to play against a lot of these. Keith Langford, he wound up playing for Kansas.
Yes.
And so my sophomore year down there, I you know, I got off, and we just I was able to my thing, and so I really got a lot of experience down there, and started getting heavily recruited.
Yes.
But you know, being away from my mom and sisters,
Yes.
and
Yes.
you know, it was a wild pool, you know, being 16, 17,
Hmm.
and so I decided to come back, you know, and a lot of people don't really know the full detail, but you know, that Zach had just dominated, and my freshman year, he got in trouble. You know, those quote the situation where he,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, they suspended him. That was his junior year. They suspended him that whole year.
and we should have won it then, but they suspended him. We wound up getting beat by Huntington in the playoffs in the sectional.
Yep.
And then the following year, that's when I went down, but then that's when Marion wins the state. And so then when I came back, Mo, there was, had and one sponsorships, all kinds of stuff.
Oh, big
And
time.
I was like, hey, man, yeah, we're going to be number 5 in the nation, yada, yada, yada. You got to come back. And I was like, bet, because I won Newcomer of the Year down in Dallas. Like I said, Gracie Wright and all these guys.
Yeah, he went
Gracie
to
Wright
IU.
went to IU.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's who I was down there banging with. And I
Big
won
time.
Newcomer. So I was a sophomore and, banging with seniors. And so then I joined the Dallas Dirty Dozen, which was Alan Henderson, Mookie Blaylock, a bunch of guys from Dallas. They put a bunch of money together. Steve Nash was a part of it. And that was the AAU outfit that I played with. And so then I went out to a couple of pump and runs out in Vegas and LA and was doing my thing, playing with, a couple years older. And like I said, decided to come back to Marion. I have, no regrets. I don't really live like that. But anyone that has gotten a chance to play for Marion probably doesn't regret it under any circumstances,
Now, let's backtrack. I'm sorry to interrupt, but let's backtrack a little bit. Do you ever think, what if I had stayed in Texas and maybe got a full-ride scholarship to Texas or A&M or Baylor or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's always, when one of my best friends, he was a defensive end at North Greenville, and and we're best friends. He was my host, so we're about to get on the phone and talk football once we get off of here. He when we get to talking about some things, he reminds me too of some of my kind of high school accolades and some the positions, because I mean I loved it, and that's what time it was. And like I said, being from Marion, I was one that took it personally. I wore the Marion on my chest with swag and with confidence.
I'm from Marion.
Oh yeah, and if you would only get the best of us once, if that. And that's fun to be around. You know what I mean? I learned that from the older guys, and then when I got to see, I got to experience that with Zach Randolph, where every gym my freshman year that we went into, he'd have a boom box on his shoulders, and the gyms would already be filled up. So that's what I'm saying. My freshman year playing JV, the gyms were already filled up. So I'm out there clowning because they're there to see Zach and the show, the biggest show in the Midwest.
It really
was. So it's just a privilege. So when I look back on it, though, that's what this culture produces. And so, my the passion that I got was born out of this community. And it did take me to different places and brought me back. And so the what ifs, the what ifs are there, and that's great. But it's also a beautiful thing to once again, it's to know that we still have guys like yourself that are involved in keeping the traditions alive.
Yes.
And giving that back to the younger guys that are in the active grind and in the active of trying to dig at their dreams,
Because the thing for me, Bobby, it's not about and I want those guys on my platform, but it's not about the Jay Edwards and the Lyndon Jones and like I said, the Richie Thompsons. It's about the guys that, may not have got the front page of the Chronicle. The guys that, kind of like yourself, moving from another area like myself. Oh, wow, this is a sports town. I'm a sports athlete. I'm going to do what I can do. But then life hits you, decisions, youthful minds, and then sometimes we veer off track. But our athlete, our team mentality, the way we've been coached our whole life, kind of puts us back. You know what I mean?
Right.
To be a success at whatever. So let's go into this. So you move back. Did you move back in time for your junior year?
Yeah, so I get back in time for junior year. And to sum up the basketball, we wound up getting beat. And, to be totally honest with you, Mo Smedley was, and a lot of people had their run-ins with him during their times. But that obviously, like many others, there always had to be a blame for each year. And consequently, my number got called. For a lot of people to say a lot of things. The rumor was, the tattoos, and everybody knows it.
What
and
was
the
the story
wildest,
about that? What was it?
well, so as a young male, and really, like, I was one that kind of went against the grain. But there was a rule, okay, no tattoos, but it was like visible. I believe a couple other guys had them on their ankles, and obviously, Zebo or whatever.
Yeah.
But his whole thing was, you can't have them visible. So it's like, okay, whatever. So I got it. I think it was for my birthday, my 18th birthday, something like that. And it was on my chest. And during tryouts, and the craziest thing to even before I finish that story, when I was in the 8th grade, man, I was the only one wearing braids in my hair. And he made Carl Gennari, the coach in middle school, he made me take them out when I was in middle school.
Really?
They weren't gonna let me play. Yeah, they wouldn't let me play with braids.
You had braids. But he put Northfield, that Madison Grant, that crap.
And so that carried on into that time. And so by the time my senior year came around, he made me go during tryouts. He made me go skins, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And clearly had a tattoo. And so that's another thing about not looking back. I mean, even as at that age, I was just living my life and moving in this direction. It wasn't a knock on him or the program. I know I put more sweat on that court than he ever has.
Yes, sir.
So that wasn't me disrespecting. And now you look at it, there's players with tattoos circling their eye sockets.
Yes.
Once again, it's not my style, but that it's their body at the end of the day. Yes. And they want to say that they have a rule.
What was the interaction? Did he say, Pittman, I told you not to get it, you're out? How did he pull you? Did he pull you to the side? Did he bust you out in front of the team?
No, it was pretty iced after that because my junior year, there was another altercation during the season with Kevin Cates.
Okay, 6'9".
Yeah, we had gotten into it during practice where somehow I'm 6'2", point guard, and I'm guarding the starting center in drills down low, and Deuce and all these other guys are out guarding guards. It's like, you got me down here because for whatever reason. Well, I telling Kevin, I was like, Kevin, that this isn't right. He's geeking you up, man. Don't you throw them elbows at me. And Kevin, he kept doing it. He just kept on milking, feeding into Mo's drill that he was running. And so he threw one and I weaved it and I picked him up and slammed him and was about ready to get into him. And Chris jumped in and Mo kicked me out, the practice. And Chris, his son took me into the hallway, by the locker room and was like, calm down, and I was like, man, that's bull, why he's setting me up? He's like, you still got to keep your calm. So, things were like that all season.
It was building from that.
Yeah, we didn't perform well. We underperformed, and the real talk is that this is a business. Here's where I tell my boys now. I got 5 boys. All of them aren't actual competing and everything, but the ones that choose to, you love it, you get your grades right. But at the end of the day, this is a business, and the sooner you understand that, the better off you'll be, because then you can love it more, you can prepare more. And so, looking in hindsight, he made owning a business, and I do too, and you have to make decisions that hurt your product or make it better. He made a decision, and it ultimately, that was his way he handled his business.
But honestly, man, being in the school system, I've been a coach at Marion since 2013. Before that, I was at McCullough. Before that, I was at the Boys Club. There are some decisions made by the adults that don't benefit the children, as far as, maybe this one needs to play, but this one can help us win. This one's grades. There's all kinds of nuance that goes into that. And sometimes the kids suffer. Now, Mo's had that rap, especially early on. And honestly, after that year, it was Zach was gone. It was Deuce Miller was supposed to be the savior, so to speak. Isaac, they put so much pressure on Isaac. He had a full article in the paper and all that. And I remember those times. It's been 20 years now, but I remember those times pretty vividly. They were putting so much on Deuce, so much on Isaac. Kevin Cates, could he do what he, and you guys went 11-11, if I'm not mistaken, that year.
Yeah, it was a very subpar year. And so that was after year football. So football that year. So my sophomore year down in Texas, I did not play football. I could have, but once again, man, as a sophomore, I was 6'1", like $175, but on the Kevin Durant side of things, you know what I mean?
Thinner.
Like, oh yeah. And these guys they look like college and pro guys. They still do down there.
Yes.
The comparison up here, and so I went to every home game my sophomore year at Grapevine and away games. I think I went to every game. And I don't remember a team that didn't look like Snyder or Homesteader. It was from they didn't feel the freshman or even have one on the sideline. So
and there'd still be 100 kids. There'd still be 100 kids on the sideline with no freshmen.
Correct. And they had more people out there. So I saw something I've never seen in football. So I was like, you know what, I'm good. Let me focus on basketball. But when I got back here, once again, Reggie was gone.
Yes.
There was no void. And I feel like I was working. Yeah, it was a big void. I was working out at Shady Hills. Steve Mortz was one of the owners of Shady Hills at the time. And I was working at, as a card attendant, at the clubhouse.
Yes.
And he kept on saying, why don't you he was dropping some hints. Some other people were dropping hints, and I was like, man, I might as well. There's no quarterback. This would be great.
Yeah.
So I went out. I got a couple other guys, Andy Brown, and we just all committed. So let's go out here and play some football. Let's get Kyle Owensby, Dewan Strong's, Lenny Sanders. Good team. Yeah, man. And Isaac was out there. Deuce was one of the best football players, wide receivers.
Deuce had the record at safety.
Defensive back.
He had 11 interceptions or 20.
Yeah.
He had it was big time back there. Still is to this day.
Oh yeah, and so that year, I think we only won 4 or 5 games. Once again, but we were producing. We were really drumming up, activity and yes, discipline. Ricardo Pena, Brandon Barrett was Kristen Marcuselli was our kicker.
Yeah, man, we went to Notre Dame.
And so what happened was early in the season, Coach Pullman came in my junior year, and they switched up the offense. See, it was just going with the standard power eye pro set.
Yes.
And after 2 or 3 games in, we just didn't have the size, and it wasn't a knock on the guys there because these are big guys, Hodge and Eddie and all these are large guys, but not for the offense.
Yeah.
It wasn't the right bodies. And so after our first, I think we played Noblesville, had subpar results, got beat, but only like 100 and some yard passing, et cetera, et cetera. And then it was like the 3rd game in, and we had been practicing the shotgun West Coast offense, with the split backs.
Yes.
In the backfield, but it was a set, and we wouldn't run it in the game. Well, then it might have been Kokomo or one of these games that he finally put it in the second half, and we ran. It took off. We threw for like 150 yards, rushed for like 200, and it became like, okay, let's try it. And then from there, we really averaged about 280 in the air, and it just became, I think, what it.
And Coach Pullman was when I played for Marion, Coach Pullman was our offensive coordinator. We had Jeff McPherson and Casey Clevenger and guys like that. And we went to state. We went to state sophomore year, which I had just moved in. And then my junior year I played. We went 7-4, lost to Lafayette in the sectional. And then my senior year, I flunked off the team after 9 weeks, and we went to state. And boy, I tell you, that was one of the biggest regrets to this day. You know, I'm almost 50 years old, and that was I sat there. My biggest memory, I went down there with Mr. Butler and his brown Cadillac. My friend Jamel Batchelor was the running back, and I can remember they were building a Circle Center Mall. It was just a big hole in the ground downtown. And and we went down to the dome, and I sat in my seat, and I remember thinking like I should be playing with my team. But so I go to YouTube now and again and watch the game. But it still brings back. But that springboarded my semi-pro career. I played 13 years of semi-pro because I still had enough. Awesome. I still had a lot in the tank. And But so let's get back with you.
Okay.
Now after that basketball season, you're going into. Were you ever thought about playing baseball for Marion?
So I did my freshman year. I looked up to Reggie and just kind of took notes, man. And I like to run. He liked to run, so I like to run. I would go to baseball. Reggie was talking about a baseball player. He was, very, 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 very gifted there. Yes. So against some of the guys, I think there was a handful of guys that was already freshmen. Now they were sophomores. Mm-hmm. They were a little upset, but I started second base my freshman year, varsity, and was the backup catcher and backup Robbie Acord. But yes, I played. I was on Spieth's Gym Rats AAU team, so I chose, we started having the double headers. I think it was, when you have that big Lafayette double header. Yeah. That's that first one of the season. I was down in Kentucky at a tournament, and man, since from the age of 5 until I got cut. Now I can watch it. I love it. I love watching basketball. But from the age of 5 to 18, man, it was basketball. But the craziest thing though, my junior year, so we switched that offense and we started having success. So then we pull Snyder in the first round of sectionals, and Snyder is a loaded. Not only are they always loaded, but this year they were already predicted. I think they were number 2 in the state, and to be totally honest with you, because we were a bunch of realists, we were trying to win. We knew we weren't going to, but we weren't going to get embarrassed. And we remembered when Snyder did put down Tony Sharon and
55 to nothing in '97.
That was my 8th grade year, and I remember that vividly. And that was no game, man. Yeah.
And Tony Sharon was probably, in my opinion, Tony Sharon is the #1 running back in Marion history. And I'll go Richie Thompson, then I'll go Roger Hamilton. But Tony Sharon was like Herschel Walker, Bo Jackson out there, man. And
he was legit. And
to see Snyder leave Marion with a goose egg, it was tough. And they still had that same heritage in the 01 season.
And I'd like to remember another man great that got hurt. And I mean, he looked like a Michigan running back, never got to get there, but was Lawan Cox.
Yes. Lawan
was nice. And so this is what I'm saying. We have this ultra rich heritage that, it's not about some, it's just glad, like I said, are doing this podcast to kind of keep some of those stories, because those were the stories and guys that I was looking at that, moving forward, that you hope that people just keep the tradition going.
Yes.
And so, that year with Snyder, we go out, and bottom line, man, we was just gunning. It was almost like I had my eyes closed because they were coming for me every time. And between Deuce and Andy Brown, who was listed as tight end, he would just line up in like the slot. He was, he was 6'2", 200, not necessarily a real tight end, but man, he had hands. And so I think we had over 400 yards passing, several touchdowns. And so we broke a bunch of records passing. And so that actually started the recruiting trail for myself in football.
Okay. So start getting eyeballs on you.
Yes, because that was still my junior year, and
Mhm.
I didn't get cut until after my senior season of football, trying out my senior year in basketball. So I mean, there was still a whole other year between that, and so I started getting invited to all these quarterback clinics, Ball State, Nike clinics, blah blah blah. And I was like, well, that I still want basketball because I had no intentions of being cut. But I took on all the letters and, because I was still going to play my senior year. And so then once I started really getting some of the, or what happened was there was also a party that got, it wasn't even a party. I was there. I had SATs one morning and I was in a car with some guys and, we did have a beer and the cops, I was in the car, but they pulled everyone out and I was getting a ride home and they were meeting people to go back to a party. So long story short, they wound up arresting everybody. And, we weren't no one was drunk. There was no beer on anything, but just because we basically admitted that we did. And
underage.
Yeah, it was underage. And so it was crazy because it was in the D home. They made us get in onesies. They made us stay. It was a bit excessive, but the one of the jailers came by and was like, "Oh man, what do you think Mo's gonna think of this? He's not gonna be too happy." I remember looking up like, and I said, "I'm a fucking, I'm a kid, man. Like, what do you,
Yeah, why are you on me like this? Yeah.
Why are you on me like this? Like that's like badgering." But if I knew it was gonna come, but it was wild how it sure enough came while I'm like, locked up or whatever in that situation.
Yes.
Which wasn't even there. And, I obviously wound up fricky and then they suspended me my first 3 games of my senior year football.
Yes.
The following year. And so that kind of also started that was kind of like the nail in the coffin, I think probably with Mo as well.
Yes.
And so then when I got back into senior football, I knew it was a little bit more real.
Yes.
Because of I was already not even really worried about. I didn't think it was going to happen, but I didn't worry because I did love football. We did have a good season, and I was getting some real traction, and it became legit. It became legit through that summer.
How did you get along with Coach Surface?
Man, there were good times. I'm not going to say there wasn't. There were. He challenged me, man. Part of my athletic career consisted of really being challenged by almost all these my coaches, minus, but even Coach Blackman, he never let me slip. He always put the challenge. So all my coaches had this Bobby Knight-esque type of relationship with me, where they weren't going to let me get through this. And when I did, they would praise me, but it was going to come with a lot of responsibility. And so
you were a Division I talent. I mean, you had a big arm. You were, 6'2", growing up. I mean, you were big time. And that's what I say when I talk to people about who should I get? Your name kind of always comes through. What about Bobby Pittman? And they talk about, like you said, we already talked about the tattoos and Texas and quarterbacking and things like that. And people still hold you in high regard around here. So, and it's very, very good.
And that's what, once again, I'm back here because I'm a product of, and so part of why I love being back and I love having my family here and just being here is that not only is it home, but when you are made by something, you know what I mean? It's almost like it owns you to a degree.
Yeah, I owe it back to this community to, make it better if I can,
And we all owe it to ourselves to be better. But man, that, like I said, when this community just comes together and latches on to one another, man, it's very strong.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I think that's why we see how abrasive it can be, because it has the potential, right, to be great. It can be so, but back to the story. Then my senior year rolls around, man, I'm super hyped. I'm now engaged in film study.
Yes.
You know, throughout the summer, I'm around all these college coaches in football, and it's all about studying. So, you know, once the senior season, even though I had to sit out the first 3 games, soon as my first game back was Newcastle, and I think I threw for like 380 yards.
You know, I know you was ready.
Yeah, just out the gate. You know, I think the first pass was a 68-yard touchdown. And so we just built on that. Now we got beat, and then we wound up, I think Homestead put us out. But I was, you know,
start getting letters and things of that nature.
Oh yeah, it was between Western Michigan and Northwestern, and IU is where my 3 came down to.
Major D1, dude. That's like cream of the crop, Big Ten stuff, baby.
Yeah, man. And so I took visits on all those, and wound up, you know, through the process learning that I was their number 3 and number 4 options at all these places. So the reason why they were bringing me in late, because the number 1 and number 2 guys were, you know, potentially not to hit them. And as fate would have you, everybody that was in front of me accepted those offers at those schools. They didn't take, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so each one of those schools said, hey, you know, you could come on and be a walk-on and be on scholarship the following year. But I was very, very, very stuck on wanting a full athletic. Yeah. And so as soon as they said they weren't offering, I got real bitter and pissed off, quite frankly. Yeah.
I'm done.
But man, I'm done. You know, I've been working my whole, you know, childhood.
Yes.
For
Division One. Yeah. Give me that $200,000.
You know,
I want it. I need it.
I want it all.
You know.
Yeah,
so how did when did other options come? I know you ended up going to Greenville in Carolina.
So I get back. So I go to Northwestern and I go to Western Michigan. Those didn't turn out. So I come back. I'm in class. IU calls out of nowhere. I think they had a coaching change, and I'm in class, and the pass comes, and they're like, "Hey, IU, or go down to see Surface, blah blah blah." So I went down to Surface, like, "Hey, IU wants to know, can you take a visit tonight?" I think it was like Thursday or something. So they pulled me out. I said yes. Called my mom. You know, they put you up in hotels down there and stuff. So I left school, went down, took my whole visit, and it was great. It was great. But then Sunday morning's brunch with the coach in the meeting, he was like, he slides over the package and blah, you know, or the folder, and he's like, you know, we just got to have you walk on. Same thing. And I was like, man, I was just crushed again, because I was like, dang, I was for sure one of these 3, you know, no problem. But so then I come back home, and then the following week we're approaching signing day. I think we have a week left before signing day, and you know, Butler had already signed someone, same with Indiana State, because everyone, same with Surface, was telling everybody, oh, he's going to Division I. Yeah. You know, don't waste your time.
So they already.
So then and a lot of schools around here, Ohio to Illinois, all the small schools all offered. But I was very disappointed with Michigan also playing in the snow, you know, football wise. So I'm just kind of like not sure what I was going to do. I was going to then just go walk. And then out of nowhere, once again, I'm in class. I get a pass, go down there, like, man, some school called North Greenville has called and offered you a full ride. And I'm like, what? Like,
full ride?
Like, yeah. I was like, man, I was like, have they seen me play? And I was like, yeah, I was like, no, they said they hadn't seen you play, but they've talked to a few scouts and coaches. And he said, he gave me the paperwork on him. He's like, they said they're going to call you tonight. You know, sure enough, went home, told mom, and they called. And he was like, well, if you're really interested, you know, we'll get you out this weekend for a visit. And so they one of the administrators' brother was a pilot. And they sent a private plane up to Fort Wayne, picked me up, went down to North Greenville. Yeah, started showing me the city. Had tons of hosts.
That's big time, bro. That's like out of nowhere. You get a call in class, and then within a day or so, you fly into PJ down to Carolina. Wow.
And at the time, North Greenville College was in their probationary period going into the NCAA Division II.
Uh-huh.
And they had, at the time that they had the NCAA's longest losing streak, man.
Okay.
They were like 0-19, but it's right in the middle of where Furman, Clemson, Wofford.
Right,
I mean, it's yeah, man. So the college used to be a JUCO for Clemson.
Uh-huh.
You know, they like Atlanta Falcons would use North facilities back in the day,
stuff like that.
And so yeah, and so what happened was that they were changing all of their coaching staff, and one of, like I said, one of the administrators who was kind of like the consultant, Coach Holcomb, man, Stuart Holcomb. He was known as, he had built a football program and was like the Ben Davis of this community called Greer, where one of my second son was born in Greer. And so he was best friends through years and years of coaching clinics throughout the country.
Yes.
He was good friends with St. Joseph's coach and Ben Davis's coach. And so when they took over North Greenville, they needed a quarterback, this, that, and the other. And so he started calling his people up and was like, hey, so we need somebody. I was the guy that they all referred, like, hey, well, we heard these things fell through for him. He's still available. Give him a shot. And so they gave me a shot, and I went down there, and it was also like it was a big culture shock, but it was a whole different animal. Even though it was D2, man, people just don't understand the
difference. Yeah. So you were one of the better players then, just by being a D1 prospect and then kind of going down to a lower notch. You probably were one of the better players in that league, I would suspect.
Yeah, I was able to, but they kind of led me on, and I was really, my freshman year, as soon as I got there, they were going to redshirt me. So they were actually not honest. I got down there. They had this quarterback from last year. They was going to go ahead and let him and sit me a year. But my whole point was like, you guys were 0-19. You're going to give me a full ride. This lets me come down as a freshman and play and get my stats up so I could at least transfer, And so then they really were going to sit me as a redshirt. So I was like, I started talking to my dad. He had some friends that had some connections at TCU and some other places. And I started getting my film out. I think I sent it to Florida International University. And everybody was like, hey, let's go. Because one of the coaches at Western Michigan went and was one of the offensive coordinators down at FIU.
Okay.
And so I was like, you know what, man, they almost was going to give me. And so then when I sent my film, they were, come on, go ahead and go through the enrollment process, and you can come here. And lo and behold, man, by week 3 or 4, go ahead.
But I was going to say, just kind of going back to Carolina a little bit, I did a little research. Now, from what I saw, it was like you started off 0-4, and then I think you led them on like a 5-game win streak. I mean, going against Kentucky, you playing Kentucky Wesleyan, 41-10, 13 out of 22, 243 yards by you, big 56-yard bomb. And then another one, Charleston Southern, you whooped them 49-21, 14 out of 20, 180, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And you also had a 14 carries for 92 yards in that game, 26-yard run. So, like, you were putting up the numbers down there in Carolina. So
sorry, I lost you on that one.
I say, so you left Carolina to go to Florida?
So after my freshman year, though, I started a family. And so that's what also set into motion, really seeking out other schools. But I returned to Carolina and stayed at North Greenville. I never went to another school. And I basically came back, and the same coaching staff, they let me, come right back in, because I basically took one spring off after my freshman year, and was able to come back in the fall. Well, I had to get back in summer. And I went through all my summer schools and got my grades back right.
Yes.
And then obviously I was always staying, in shape and playing pickup basketball. Man, I never stopped playing ball too, So I never missed a beat there. And so I helped. So the coaching staff. So then by my sophomore year, we had gotten some national attention, and like that Charleston Southern game, for instance, that was the first time that North Greenville, any athletic team, had defeated a Division I opponent.
Big time,
and
bro.
so and so that's what we we were doing. So that coaching staff, man, they really brought in, and so you have limited scholarships, so you don't have the same amount of power, but they split it up, and that's what made it hard for me because I was one of only like 4 other guys that they kept the whole full for.
Yes.
And I was with some guys that were like journeymen. They had been to like Tennessee State and Georgia Southern, and now that this was their 3rd stop, they're 21. Yes. They're trying to go pro, and they're only getting $2,000 a year, for their books and to play. And here's this guy coming from Indiana, sitting on the bench, thinking he's hot shot, getting a full ride. And so the locker room at first, because of also then D2, you have less people out of state. When you're D1, you're going to get a lot of people out of state. D2, you're going to get out of state, but yeah. And so now the culture is already different, So then the culture, even between the white and the black guys, they will link up before they take in a guy from Indiana.
Yeah.
And so it was, I'm not gonna lie, man, it was rough.
It was tough. Did they try to challenge you down there?
Yeah. And so that's, what I'm saying, like it was, even though it was D2, man, you had to hold it together.
Yes.
You had to come with it. And so once again, just because of being from Marion, it's like you keep rising to the, and so that's where for me, it allowed me to perform well because I also, like I told those guys, I walked with a chip on my shoulder down there. I was like, I was treating that place as my Division I.
Yes.
And so we really built a real type of identity. And what wound up happening was after those 2 years, I was team All-American, and what wound up happening is the donors all got together. And now there's a whole athletic complex. By my last year that I played there, I was able to, play in the first year of the new stadium and the new complex. And it almost looks exactly like, I really think the engineers that built the Indiana Wesleyans complex, it's a beautiful stadium. So, once again, do I look back and wish I would have went D1 and this, that, and the other?
Yes.
Yes, it probably would have been super dope, but man, my journey
to live like that, it was supposed to happen that way,
Absolutely, and so I'm proud of that. I've got some of the memories, and I loved how you shared some of those clippings. I haven't seen some of those in so many years, but it goes back.
I can send you some. I can send you some that I got. They got pictures of you. You ain't got no beard or mustache, baby. You was young. Had that number 9 jersey on. But so now you.
One of my guys.
I was going to say you met your best friend down there as well. You said the defensive lineman down in Carolina. So it's good that all these years later, you guys are still close.
Absolutely, he was my host. He was who they dropped me off. He's a guy from Somerville. He played with AJ Green.
Cincinnati Bengals.
Yes, sir. And now with the Arizona Cardinals. He was a phenomenal athlete as well. But he was from Charleston.
Yes.
Seeing all of that sort of region of football, it was just really cool to, once again, when you go D2, you still get some guys that are going to play at the next level.
Yes.
There might not be as many because they go stock out of Bama, but Coastal Carolina's inaugural season. My guy I'm talking about now, my boy Garrett, he sent me some clips because Coastal Carolina did like a flashback, like Popeye's Chicken, did like a flashback of Coastal's inaugural season. And the highlight that they used was when they played us on Thursday night.
Okay.
And they beat up on us, but we came back on them, The head coach was a pretty pretty hot shot. They were, like I said, they were a D1 program. It was their first year. Now they were in the top 25 this year for several weeks. But competition, and this is what I guess what I'm kind of rambling on about. So why I loved playing D2 was, if I would have fully stayed committed to only playing D1, and then because it wasn't D1, I didn't go to college and play.
Yes,
that would have been a big mistake. So D1 is a dream. It is a destination. It is what we all should shoot for, because it resembles quote unquote what we are going to put at the metric as the top. And let's be real, Georgia Bulldogs this year, that was
against Alabama,
team, right?
Won the whole thing, baby.
Absolutely. And so, but guys can really still continue their passion, their craft, their development, and it doesn't have to be every Saturday in the Big Ten or the ACC or the SEC.
Yeah, there's still competitive ball. Like even here in Marion, Indiana Wesleyan's got a running back that should be Division I, or should be in the NFL out of Orlando, Florida. And then, like you said, even I think even with the HBCUs, there's so much talent in the HBCUs, like scattered all down in the South. There might be one or two from each team, or one here or there, but there's athletes. And what we always tell kids is, if you can play, they will find you. Doesn't matter, you know what I mean? You can be in IWU, or you can be at North Greenville, or you can be anywhere. But if you have that talent, they will come and talk to you and get you. Now, did you end up going to another college after North Greenville?
No, that was the end of the road for me, man. I wound up 4 years. I only played 3, and so I technically had another year. But then with starting the family, I chose to hang it up and walk away. Still with not like I said, I had a couple concussions and dislocated shoulder.
Yes.
But mostly intact, and I was able to go out on my terms. I think my last year, my senior year was, I was 22 years old. Yeah. So, I got to, absolutely, and by that time I had I didn't have my second son until afterwards, but I had a 2-year-old by my senior year, so my whole junior and last year I'm playing with a family. Yes. And I loved my athletic career. I loved it. It made me so passionate, you know what I'm saying? Because like I love one of my other passions that sometimes when we're athletes here in Marion, it becomes, and also because being in the poverty range where I grew up in, absolutely love my mother. She raised us and did a phenomenal job of having, raising 4 kids, and so did my grandmother. But we were certainly not rich by no means or nothing like that. We were poor, and sports is what is offered right away, specifically if you jump, if you're fast, and and you're melanated. Let's also I'm not trying to
I'm glad you brought that up, and let's kind of talk about that. Being in the Midwest, being in the South, being over in Carolina, can you talk about maybe if there was a challenge of maybe being mixed race in a small Carolina communities, or maybe even the Texas communities, or just has there been any instances here or there in a racial manner, where people saying things or doing things?
Yeah, I think so that it not is like personal, and it can be accessible to a lot. It is something that I have faced along the way here, and it existed in Carolina in college as well. And it's something that is it's not that it's not talked about, in my opinion, in the right way, the right kind of light. It's an extra weight that's put on your rep test.
Yes.
But then it's not reflected in the report. You know what I mean? And that's where you can't remove it, you can't sugarcoat it. But as an adult looking back on it, I made it through the gauntlet.
Yes.
I absolutely have the right, because I want to potentially spread light so that it can peel back, because not everyone was using race inappropriately or using that as a tool to divide and use power. Right?
But it does exist.
It does exist. Yeah. So that was there, and then the head coach that brought me down there, he was winning, doing a great job building the donor base and just the school. We brought back Thursday night football to the campus. We were just building the brand, making the school money. Like when we went down and whooped Charleston Southern, I think they gave us a check back on the bus. It was $75,000, and that's when I also realized, yo, man, that's why they paid me. They paid me money so I could come down here and make them money.
Money. Yeah.
And
it's a business. It's a business, and unfortunately, it's a business where they crumple up a lot of players and dispose of them. The ones that are on the fringe or aren't producing anymore or are injured. It is a big business. So now let's talk about this. After leaving North Carolina, what did you get into, and when did you start your business?
So I started out majoring in biology, and then when I left, I switched a couple times, but when I left, I was studying marketing and business management, because then my dad's not, he owns business, and I had started to just kind of think of already being a father and a family man. Because it started out wanting to kind of be like a physical therapist and whatnot. And so that entrepreneur spirit just kept going. And I always loved music. And this is one thing about athletes, this is kind of back in Marion. When you're young, you just get hit right away with, if you're good at sport, that's your ticket out. So, but music and arts, man, are so important.
Big time.
The reality is that we're not going to get to play. That's why the kids need to have so much fun and really get after it now, because I'm 38, and I love watching my son, and I love watching highlights, and I personally do not want to, or could I get out there and compete at the same level. So once I was about, I want to say for me, because of all of the wear and tear I took in college, I needed time away from the game.
You have to mend up.
Yes. Adrian Peterson and some of these other guys, Dak Prescott's, there's a reason why these guys are pros too, because they can regenerate. It's very wild, Me, I was very, my accolades are up there and great, but when I really throw all the people that I have played against, and this is where your Zach Randolphs come in, and even at times like your Jay Edwards, I wasn't alive seeing him, but that's a real deal. That's some holy smoke.
Yes,
big smoke,
big time.
And I had so much love and respect for the game. I didn't take bitterness because I loved it too much. So me not playing anymore in my early 20s, I knew that it was going to change. I had a couple of arena teams come and offer me tryouts. My roommate Amos, he went and played arena ball out in Spokane, Washington. He got drafted by the Redskins and then went out west.
Arena ball at that point was very big. I know Fort Wayne had one. It was on NBC a lot, but not so much anymore.
I didn't really desire that. I desired the NBA, but I never desired the NFL. The NFL was, like I said, once I got to college and I saw how big some of these guys naturally were. Yes. Like there was a quarterback that came in after me my junior year or senior year from Florida, 6'4", 6'5", 235. Yeah. And he had a cannon. His arm was, like
a Josh Allen from Buffalo, like a Josh Allen, big stud. Yeah.
So that's who I'm competing against. Now, I was better. I had certain things, but for the coach that came in after, his system
Mhm.
that player fit his system
Fit
better.
his system, yes.
And so, that's where I had already transitioned to inside of the football realm because of the Division II. You really get exposed to real NFL guys. I mean,
Yes.
like I said, and so that was like, okay, Bobby, you're going to have to dedicate your life to the weight room. It became now you have to get your metrics up.
Mhm.
I think my last year I was at a 4.67, 4.71 was my pro 40. So I wasn't getting faster. I was a
Mhm.
4.57 out of high school.
Mhm.
But you get a little heavier. I also
Yeah.
did put on weight. I was 220 my senior year
Mhm.
in football. They moved me to receiver,
Mhm.
and I did kick returning, special teams. So
Mhm.
I started playing football more my
Yes.
last year because they moved me. I was backup quarterback, then they moved me to slot receiver. So
Yes.
I started, and then I also saw that, man, I really also love playing quarterback only.
Yeah. It's like, I'm a QB, man. You moving me
Yeah, I'm a
out here.
QB.
Yeah. So
I call
when did you get your business up and running?
So I finally decided to move back here 2012.
Mhm.
It's going on about 10 years now.
Okay.
And moving back to Marion, there's not too much going on.
No.
I worked for a heating and cooling company, did some HVAC, started
Okay.
a business, construction business. I was doing
Mhm.
that for several years. But I was really wanting. I worked at um, some of the nursing homes as
Mhm.
maintenance manager,
Yes.
the Paddock View, the group home out there,
Uh-huh.
and just trying to figure out how am I going to really, because the main goal is always I want to help the community. I want to give back. I've been in other markets.
Yes.
I've been and
All over
I've
the
given a lot
country.
all over the
Yeah.
country, and I want to give my energy, a part of my life and energy, and
Mhm.
back to this community. And at times it's a real labor of love, but at the end of the day,
Yes.
longevity has its place, and I want my history to have been spent trying to give back and make this place a good place
Better.
to live.
Yes. That's what it's all about. And I think we have a good collective of alumni and people that love the community. If you look at it now, it's a lot of people our age. You know what I mean? We're
Right.
getting into the city governments. We're getting into the schools. We're getting into big things now. For the people that are, say, 38, 39, up to about, 41, 51, 52.
And so a couple of years ago, so I bought a building downtown on the river, across from Riverside Community Federal
Okay.
Credit Union.
Yes.
There's
About
another
old
cafe down there.
vocals, right in that area,
Yep.
right on the on
Right on
Boot Street.
it's Spencer. It's yeah. If you take Boots and run into the river, my building is a big white building I painted down
Okay.
there, and the king. It's called the Kingdom, and we have a little cafe, a music stage in there.
Mhm.
We're currently closed down for some COVID regulations, but more
Yes.
importantly, we are renovating and going to be reintroducing some more holistic products, and
Mhm.
our back bar area is going to turn into a really cool retail area for
Okay.
the community.
Well,
And
I'm
so
definitely
we'll
gonna
be
come.
reopening those.
Yeah. Well, when you open back up, I want to come down and patronize your business, and maybe we can, maybe shoot something down there. Who knows?
Oh yeah, that'd be great. And so that was I've been doing. And we are there to, like I said, there's a stage there for performances, but it's really to once again to be a beacon in the community of, all right, here we are. So what do we want to do? Let's pick that building, create an idea, and then get in that building.
Get in there.
It creates the conversation, and it starts to rebuild the fabric of our community.
Yes.
Is that we want to encourage one another, even if it's a barbecue stand or it's a
Mhm.
lawn care business.
Yes.
All of these things are vital, number
Mhm.
one, but it also gives us the opportunity where we would not went down to the city, and talked to the city planners and Jerry, the building commissioner,
I totally
Jerry
agree.
Fosnight, and so that those are some extra steps. So does one of us have the answer? No, it's a bunch of different things.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm trying to do with my role in the community and with our business. Is, of course, I want to be successful businessman, but more importantly, I want to get people's minds rolling in the direction of strong community, and let's show, instead of telling and staying in one place, let's be the generation that shows
does
how to
it.
get
Yes. Now,
exactly.
what are your thoughts on generational wealth as far as crypto, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Satoshis? That's the new thing. I think with the pandemic, and we may touch on jabs, no jabs, no jobs, and just kind of pop culture type thing.
Right. So first one, what you mind repeating that first? You say on generational wealth.
Yes.
That's one that has so many different layers. Potentially, depends on how many, the perspective. I will say that's part of also what I'm doing as a businessman is trying to set up generational wealth for my family.
So the kids and grandkids can have that equity in perpetuity.
Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? It's
big time.
You tell you're not allowed to do this so many times. This, that, and the other. But and once again too, I could tell a very private story about Most Medley of how inappropriate he would be in that race category when you're dealing with.
Let's bust him out. Let's air him out.
13 or 14. I was dating this one girl in middle school, our freshman year, and he was colleagues with the girl's mother. And one day the girl comes up to me in the hallway just screaming and crying. I was like, man, I have to break up with you. I can't. My mom said no. I'm like, what? He said, who's your mom? I didn't know who her mom was. And he was like, yeah, Mo told my mom that it's not good. And, because I was like, why? Is it because you're black? And I'm like, what? And I was like, hold on. I was like, who's your mom? Yeah. And then when her mom wanted to be a gym teacher, and it was just like, oh man. And so I'm playing for this guy knowing this.
Yes.
So even when I'm,
in hindsight, it showed that junior year and that senior year with the tattoo. He had it out for you. Cutting your braids. He had it out for you.
When I was a kid. And so how I am now, that's how I kind of measure men. And when I see it now in sports, that's why I say I commend you. And I love my brother-in-law is a basketball coach. And, I love Paul Funches. We have, I saw that. I think
national championship. He just won a national championship in Florida. I did one of these with him to get his football team, the Liberty Prep Freeman, out to the public. And Marion embraced that team so well this year. And it was ups and downs, but the culmination was a national championship.
Man, that's all praise, Yes. And so what this winds up becoming is now we have the proof. So when you're in the real time, they're gonna like to call it, oh, well, you can't prove this. Well, now let's look at everyone's bodies of work.
Yes.
And
the merit of the man.
Thankful. That's right. And we can clearly see that if I were to be a 38-year-old man in the progress of an up and coming, young, nurturing 13, 14, 15 little male, I would encourage them and be a part of their growth a different way. Yes. And this is why when my experiences crosses in and I'm more vocal about it, this isn't just simply wanting a handout. We could get to that later because we have the proof on that one as well. I'm talking about what makes a grown man use his position to squash and subvert a child. That's where around here today, these men around here won't just mess with you as an adult male. They'll mess with your kids.
Yeah, and they'll try to snuff your dream out as a freshman, as a sophomore.
Yeah. So once again, when I'm saying
I see it.
That extra weight, where just hits 215, but you got to do, you know what I'm saying, or 245, but now you got to do, or 225, but you got to do 3 plates, but you don't get credit for it. They say, oh no, he only did 4 reps at 225. Nah, bro, you had 3 plates on mine.
Yeah.
And so that is the stain that they're going to have to address eventually. Is that's when they say the systemics are they're not equal, because once if you tell me that this person gets a shot to do the same thing, and this person gets a shot to do the same thing, but you have to put 20 pounds weight on your legs, and this person actually has a rope that they can actually climb up on.
It's tougher. You know,
at some point in time, your reason should step.
Yes.
But man, this has to stop. This has to stop. You know. And it's reading. And so I went to a top 200 workout in Charlotte before I got cut that summer, my junior year. And one of the top coaches in the country, we would every morning we would have these seminars where people, NBA players would come in and talk, coaches would come in and talk. And one of the guys came in, and he was that year's McDonald All-American, historic coach from DC. And his whole speech was on the 2 things that people do enough anymore. And mind you, this room out of 200 prep, 150 prep is melanated.
Yes. What did he say?
He said that we don't read and ask questions.
Yes.
And so I took that very personal at that time. And that became part of my
questions.
Absolutely. And so that's where I'm thankful the Most High is bringing us to a state of awareness, because if we do read and ask questions, ask other brothers like me and yourselves. This is why we have to make ourselves available in the community, and then we can turn the image of our youth looking at everyone else. That's part of what I do with my business. Is I want people to say, oh wow, this guy got cut, or this guy did this. Well, but he's still here.
Yes.
So,
thriving.
So
in the community.
I'm still here.
Yes.
You don't have to. And this story is shared. So that's why I've always embraced my personal story. It hasn't been necessarily what just happened to me.
Yes.
It's a story of, you just have to keep going. Just don't give up, because eventually, you will find that it's not about hard work pays off with your bootstraps. But the truth, the cream always rises to the top.
Every time.
That's what Marion, and why I'm so passionate about Marion, is there is something in the water here that we possess that everyone else doesn't. We really have the ability to lead the way in this region. So I pray so much for the violence and some of this guidance of our, not just youth, but even some of our younger men that are here, that are directly impressionable, that we can take a breath, step back, and then we start picking up real books. We pick up the Torah, we go into the prayer room, and then we allow that to filter out, and we put down the part of my business, and we're going to be shutting down that aspect. Because it just, as a businessman, yes, there's bottom lines involved, but as an impact in the community, how do I really want to impact? And I don't want to serve alcohol anymore to the community, because I want the message that, even though once again it's a businessman, I want us to continue to be better.
Yes. Honestly, Bobby, I was thinking of a smoothie bar. Something like that, where you can get your soft serve, you can get a dragon fruit smoothie with flaxseed and chia seed in there, put a little sea moss in it, and there you go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so you'll be surprised, and you will enjoy on that topic when we open up. These are going to be some of the things that you will see.
I'm coming down here, baby. I'm coming,
because we want to uplift, and so part of all of this is it's a cycle. And so once again, the community, you can be hopeful. There's a lot of young guys doing well, but with you being around them, last year with COVID, and we opened up in 2019, and then COVID hit that following year. But I wanted to reach out and get with specifically with Marion High School and even the football team, to have you guys start coming in, some of the players using the facilities.
You know
and,
what?
you know,
I think I can make that happen. I can talk to the coaches and talk to the kids, and maybe we can do that. And well, maybe we can have you speak to us when we get into spring camp. So which is maybe another 2 months away, but we can say, you know, this is Bobby Pittman. He's was with us 20 years ago as a quarterback, and speak to some of your, speak your story, and then we can patronize your business down there.
Absolutely. And
contact information for the Kingdom. What is your contact information?
So the kingdomstage.com, there's where you'll see menus and
I'm sorry, what was that again?
The kingdomstage.com.
Kingdomstage.com.
Our address and telephone numbers, all the infos, links to emails that you can reach out to us.
Okay.
You can also privately reserve the Kingdom for private parties, birthday parties, graduations, weddings.
Okay.
It's got some of the most beautiful views of the river. There's no other business that's on that
like
river.
That, yes, it is beautiful.
We're going to be doing a Rock the River 2022 in the end of summer.
Okay.
This will be year 3. It's going to be headlined by Kamari Drake, and he's going to be booking a few different bands. No, so that's we're just going to that's what we're doing. We're just trying to be there for people, see how we can help, and then just grow. And then
it's almost like it seems like you got a better beatniks down there. You know what I mean? It's better. Sure. It's not even similar. But, it's a place to go to play music, to visit. Will be non-alcoholic, which is good. But it still has that, that feel, that community feel,
Absolutely.
I like that.
And so, we appreciate anything that you can pass on. And
yes.
To just have
make that happen.
Stay posted because, with COVID, all of the things, it's been unbelievable. As with a lot of people, it's been very tough. We just got to stay connected to our social medias and come check us out. When our signs open, stop in and see us. And
yes, I will. Definitely thank Bobby Pittman, 2002 Marion High School graduate, local business owner that's thriving with Kingdom down there on Boots. We're going to definitely patronize your business and maybe come to some of your music venues, things of that nature. But I want to possibly have you on again. It seems like I could probably talk to you another whole hour about, like, we didn't even touch on much on crypto or Bitcoin. We didn't touch much on no jabs, no jobs. But I would love to invite you back on maybe in a couple of weeks, and we can talk about a little bit more. And because I love your mission and I love your drive, and you're really, in my opinion, you're really a community guy. You're really uplifting, and a lot of people. And really, what I see is kind of a hothead kid that traveled and learned himself around the world. You know what I mean? And you kind of intimated yourself. Kind of, chest up, braggadocious. And we kind of learned our lessons a little bit over the years, but now we're 38, 39, 40, and we're on the upliftment. And I would love to have you back on to talk some more.
Hey, I'd love to be back on, but first and foremost, like I said, thank you for this time. And thank you for your service. Like, you're actively out there every day working with these young men.
Yes.
And so
it ain't easy.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Holland, and best of luck. And we're going to keep you in our prayers. So thank you.
God bless you, brother. So we will definitely patronize your business. We'll get your contact information all up here. And I look to talk to you soon, Bobby.
All right, Holland. Appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. God bless, brother.
Yes.